Everyone knows that murderers usually face the death penalty. Yet, this young man, who killed his own father, was sentenced to merely 3 years in prison. No particular reason at all. It was simply because he hadn't reached the age of majority. Oh, and our protagonist's true name is Cha Ju-young. Following his conviction, he was incarcerated in a juvenile detention center. This particular one happens to be among the most infamous prisons in this futuristic world. This juvenile detention center isn't just a place to confine young criminals. It is also a perilous land, one that harbors society's darkest secrets. Cha Ju-young must contend with severe challenges, ranging from cutthroat survival races between rival prisoner factions to brutal battles for existence, all within the prison's relentlessly harsh environment. Armed with his innate strength and strategic mind, Cha Ju-young tirelessly fights to protect himself, to uncover the truth behind this advanced system, and reclaim his freedom for himself and for all those who are oppressed. His journey is vividly portrayed through intense battles, thrilling, breathtaking action sequences, and the character's evolution from a vulnerable individual into a burning ember of hatred, igniting deep within his soul. At this moment, Ju-yeon was being used as a target by a bunch of prisoners. Seeing the scene before him, Ju-yeon trembled and begged the guy to stop, all for their entertainment. However, when he heard the boss mention the reward money, he couldn't help but feel a little tempted. It turned out that ever since Ju-yeon arrived at this prison, he'd done everything possible, as long as money was involved. From shoveling snow for 300 won, to warming shoes for 100 won. He could even act like a dog for others to vent their anger on. And this time, if he just let that guy shoot him once, he'd immediately get 500 won. This made Ju-yeon unable to resist, so he nodded in agreement. Yet, just as he thought enduring one shot of pain would be the end of it, suddenly the elastic band snapped, simultaneously causing the coin, the 500 won coin, to fly straight into the toilet. Seeing this, the boss didn't show any anger. Instead, he praised Ju-yeon for being quite lucky. Ju-yeon immediately became excited at this, because this was the first time he didn't get hurt but still received a large sum of money. While he was happily giving thanks, the guy said something that made him freeze. "Hey, if I just give you money so easily, what's the fun in that, huh? Now go pick that up for me." Just like the saying goes, the only truly free things in this world are theft and your best friend's junk and butt. That's it. The people in the room were all eagerly anticipating this, standing there with smug smiles. Oh boy, that's a bit much, you know. It seems someone farted here yesterday. But Yeon, on the other side, hesitated just a little. He quickly bowed his head, face down towards the toilet bowl, to reach for the coin. Witnessing this scene firsthand, they were utterly shocked. They let out a disgusted, "Ugh!" The whole group, seeing the water splash everywhere, made disgusted faces and cursed, "How awful! Which dog was that? Oh my gosh! It stinks to high heaven. Don't you dare come near me." After a moment of struggling, Ju-yeon found the coin and held it in his mouth. Seeing that, the others were even more amazed. Whoa, that's next level. LOL, he sold his soul for just 500 won. He clenched the coin in his mouth, thinking to himself, just for 500 won. Ju-yeon still held that posture, thinking, I've turned that 500 won. He opened his eyes wide, a determined glint in them, and thought, into 50,000 won, you fools. Afterward, a junior reminded their boss, "It's time to head to the training grounds." Sung-ho, still not feeling satisfied, asked, "Already?" He waved his hand behind him and said, "Cha Ju-young, you reek. Go to the very back." Hearing that, the subordinates walking ahead also burst into loud laughter. After saying that, they turned and left, leaving only whispers and chatter echoing. Whoa, he's only been here for a month, and Cha Ju-young has already fallen to this state. I heard he ran out of money. He really sold his dignity cheaply, didn't he? The blue sign, live responsibly and take responsibility for the life you choose. Ju-young heard the last of it. That idiot! Then, without much care, he dragged his heavy feet outside. The sounds of laughter and talking still echoed. He was thrown in here for attempted murder, you know. You are Cha Ju-young. Crime, attempted murder. Sentence, 3 years in prison. Over there, Sung-ho's group was still extremely pleased. He walked and talked. In the face of money's power, murder or anything else, it all gets tossed aside. A different guy then asked curiously, "But why is Cha Ju-young so desperate for money? Or is he in debt?" At the same time, a voice called out from the guard outside the door. "Cha Ju-young, cell 7199, you have a visitor." Hearing that, Ju-yeon immediately brightened, even from inside his cell. "That's why I have to work so hard to earn money." He looked towards the outside of his cell. That's because Ju-yeon's visitor was none other than Zion. Seeing him, she frowned in displeasure and asked, "What in the world happened to you? Why is your face in such a state?" Zion continued to fret, pouring out a long string of questions. "Don't they feed you here? Or did you get beaten up again?" Ju-yeon could only stammer, "No, that's not it. We're childhood friends, you know." She scolded further. "You idiot. I told you to assert your dominance first, didn't I? Or just take your chopsticks and poke him in their eyes. Ju-yeon didn't know how to explain it to Zion, so he could only utter a bewildered, "Oh!" And to the only person who ever visited him, Ju-yeon suddenly spoke up. "But why do you keep coming here so often? Transportation fees are really expensive, you know." Hearing that, she furiously stood up, her face as enraged as a lioness, and roared, "Do you really think I'm a beggar?" Then Razion pointed at the money jar and lowered her voice, saying, "You seriously think I'm so broke I need you to send this to me? All right, even though my parents are gone." She prompted him for an explanation. "But I'm not stupid enough to just accept this suspicious money willy-nilly." Ju-yeon was so surprised his jaw dropped, exclaiming, "Suspicious money? What are you talking about?" He widened his eyes and asked again, "Because of the promise?" Razion merely replied calmly, "The promise was after we graduate high school, we would go to Seoul and live together." Her eyes filled with genuine concern as she reminded him, "Don't worry about money. I'll take care of it. You just need to stay healthy." Just as she was saying this, the guard called out, "Visiting hours are over." This left Razion momentarily stunned. She still tried to add a few last words. "You understand, right? Just keep thinking about getting out of prison." Razion continued to instruct, "Absolutely, do not do anything foolish. That's a promise, got it?" Meanwhile, Ju-yeon sat behind the cell's glass partition. He just raised his hand in a wave, then smiled fondly at her. The moment Jane's figure disappeared from view, the smile on his lips suddenly vanished. Ju-yeon sat there, lost in thought. His mind was a whirlwind of jumbled thoughts. A promise suddenly came to his mind. Suddenly, old memories flooded back all at once. "Jaeyeon, I'm so sorry." In the hospital, Ju-yeon kept apologizing to her. "Don't say anything more. Because of that guy, you had to endure." At that time, the girl's entire body from head to toe was covered in marks. "What exactly are you thinking, Jae-yeon?" "Sorry," she said, trembling. "Are you kidding me right now?" Then Jae-yeon furiously pinned him against the wall, shouting loudly, "Now is not the time to be worrying about other people." Her eyes widened with worry. "Your father was hit on the head by the very vase you threw, and he's still in a coma right now." Looking at the man lying silently on the hospital bed, Jae-yeon continued, "If he can't wake up, then the police won't leave you alone. You should really think about that." But Ju-yeon only replied sadly, "It's fine. They'll take into account the domestic violence I've endured all this time." He continued, comforting her that she wouldn't be severely punished. "Nevertheless, what's meant to be will be. Defendant Cha Ju-yeon, the court hereby sentences you to 3 years in prison." Yet Ju-yeon was utterly stunned, her face darkening as she thought to herself, "What? My entire life I had to suffer my father's abuse, and now I have to go to prison just for that one time I couldn't endure it." Before she went to prison, it was Jae-john who came to advise her, "Make sure you eat properly." This was to motivate Ju-yeon to quickly escape that hellhole. At that moment, she said, "If anyone bullies you, tell me right away." "Got it," Jae-john's voice echoed. "Promise me, okay?" But she merely glanced, without uttering a single word. After that, Ju-yeon silently turned her face and walked away. Even though she's in prison, if she causes trouble, her sentence will definitely be extended. Back to reality, the thugs in the cell were bickering. "You punks want to stay here even longer, huh?" On the other hand, if you become a model prisoner, you might even get your sentence reduced. He held the photo, looking at it closely, then secretly made a resolution in his heart. "So 3 years. Ju-yeon stared intently at the photo. "Wait for me for another 3 years, okay?" It turned out the photo was a joint picture of him and Jae-yeon during a training session. Ju-yeon, however, didn't notice Sung-ho approaching, smirking maliciously with utter mockery. Oh, how utterly touching. Seeing that, he flinched, quickly hiding the photo. Faced with Ju-yeon's utterly ambiguous demeanor, he grew even more curious, asking, "Is that your girlfriend?" He awkwardly replied, "Oh no, just a friend." Sung-ho grinned brightly and replied, "Ah, so it's unrequited love then?" Immediately, he puffed up his chest arrogantly and demanded, "Hand it over!" Ju-yeon was a little scared, but he stubbornly clung to the photo. "No, you can't have this." Sung-ho heard that, bared his teeth in warning, and emphasized, "What do you think you're trying to pull? Ju-yeon, you dare defy me?" As soon as the words left his mouth, he immediately swung his hand up high and yelled, "Seems it's been a while since I had to teach you a lesson, eh?" Sung-ho repeatedly punched his face, but just as he was really getting into it, a voice called out. The guard's voice rang out, "Cell 36, new arrival!" He stopped what he was doing, bewildered, and whispered, A new guy? I haven't heard anything about it." Suddenly, the figure of the new arrival gradually became clear. He approached from behind, and somewhat threateningly spoke to the new prisoner. "Please don't cause trouble. Right now. You're the only one I'm concerned about." When the new guy entered, Sung-ho quickly recognized him, then shouted loudly, "Hey, I know that guy." He, Sung-ho, fearfully fell to the ground, pointing at the new arrival, and said, "That guy killed 7 people." Hearing that, his subordinates were also shocked. mouths agape, and followed his gaze. It turned out the new arrival was Makiom. Makiom, charged with murder, sentenced to 25 years in prison, the highest sentence for a juvenile. The atmosphere in the cell suddenly became suffocatingly tense. No exception. DeYoung was also startled and thought to himself, this guy killed 7 people? At this moment, all attention was focused on the new arrival. Song-ho tremblingly stood up and said, "What's there to get so twisted up about?" He approached closer and said, "Just 7 lives, big deal. Is there anyone innocent in this place anyway?" Song-ho smirked at Magium, asking, "So you've killed people before, haven't you? You look pretty intimidating, though." He stared intently at Magium, warning him. "However, don't get too cocky. Know your place a little." Hearing that, Magium was absolutely livid, but still tried to maintain a calm demeanor. He was about to say something, but after thinking it over, Magium decided not to say anything more. He just turned his face away, and Magium's dismissive attitude made Song-ho quite annoyed before he burst out laughing. "I was going to go easy on him, but that punk just doesn't know his place." Without another word, he lunged forward and punched him in the back. But despite that, Magium isn't someone to be trifled with. Although he was ambushed, he was incredibly agile and quick, dodging it. This broke the rules here. Everyone was so shocked they froze stiff. Song-ho grimaced, gritting his teeth and thinking, "That bastard dodged." Immediately after that, he even started to counterattack. DeYoung was quite impressed by this person and thought to himself, "He's different." He watched Magium attack Song-ho and exclaimed, "He's the one who killed 7 people." DeYoung stood wide-eyed in horror, completely useless in that moment. Yet, when the second blow landed, he didn't dodge or fight back at all. That punch sent Magium's head flying back, spewing a mouthful of fresh blood. He was so utterly shocked, frozen solid, and thinking, what in the world is happening? Next, a relentless barrage of kicks from Song-ho rained down on him. Every single kick landed squarely, accompanied by his curses. "You punk, who the hell do you think you are? I'm the big boss in this prison, and you dare disrespect me." His arrogant gaze looked down, and he continued, "In this cell, whether you're a murderer, a rapist, or a drug addict, you still have to obey my orders." The others in the room watched this scene, utterly dumbfounded. They had thought he was so strong before, you see. But now, Magium was being mercilessly beaten to a pulp. Song-ho was ragging him around like a stray dog. This turn of events was completely unexpected by everyone present. Turns out, he was just a total lightweight. After enduring a brutal, skin-peeling beating, he spent the next few days living in utter disgrace. Unable to lift his head and constantly forced to kneel, Magium was then made Song-ho's personal lackey. "All right, I'm going to get water. But thanks to that, they finally left me alone." He glared furiously, then cleared his throat. But the other guy just snickered, asking in return, "Well, it's really best not to go against him. Magion not only does everything for them, and if he messes up even a tiny bit, he gets an instant punch to the face, even if he does it right or wrong." Juyeon watched the scene, clicked his tongue, and thought inwardly, he's new to prison, all right. Still figuring out the social cues, it seems. But thanks to him, Juyeon had less work. He mumbled to himself while wiping the floor. But as for Chummerentus, I'm just getting more annoyed now. After a long, drawn-out day, night gradually descended. By now, everyone in the prison cell was asleep, falling into a deep slumber. Only Juyeon and Magion were still tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Juyeon spoke up, striking up a conversation like this. Juyeon turned his head to look at Magion, asking, "Are you dense? Would it kill you to suck up to Big Bro just a little?" Ju Sheyeon continued to explain. "I mean, in this glorified chicken coop, Big Bro is basically the king, the president, the whole darn government here. Just listen to me, all right?" Juyin kindly reminded Magion, "If you can't fight, don't put on airs. From tomorrow, you'll learn the hard way." But hearing this, he suddenly interrupted him. Jaehan narrowed his eyes, frowning as he retorted, "So, you've always been such a coward?" Upon hearing this, Juyeon pondered, bewildered, and exclaimed, "What?" He thought to himself, I advised him, yet he still wouldn't listen? Meanwhile, he had turned away, not wanting to listen any further. Those words just now made Juyeon ponder even more restlessly. To live in such a cowardly way? He remembered the scene of Jaehyun's devastation that day, then secretly resolved to endure it all. The image of Juyeon, consumed by rage, unable to hold back from hitting his own father. "I will endure everything." Then, he recalled the image of her waiting outside, "until I can finally leave this place." In a neighborhood near the detention center, Jaehyun looked at the endlessly falling snow and exclaimed, "It's so cold." Later, she grew melancholic, thinking of him. He looked so thin in prison. Jaehyun clenched his fists. "I need to bring him something more. I hope you can endure in there until your term is over." She still stood there, lost in thought, even though she knew it would be very difficult. Looking at the traffic lights on the road, Jae-sen thought to herself, "I hope you're still eating well and staying healthy. Thank you for your gift." She hugged the food box tightly. "I hope we'll meet again soon." Just as she thought this, The pedestrian signal also turned green. Jae-seon quickly started walking to cross to the other side of the street. And then, suddenly, a car sped quickly down the road at an unholy speed. By the time she suddenly realized, the car was already right upon her, and she had no time to react. The car directly hit Jae-seon. Meanwhile, Ju-yeon was still deep in a drunken slumber, oblivious to what was happening. Back on the street, she too had fallen unconscious on the road. The beautifully prepared rice rolls that Jae-seon had made hadn't even reached his hands yet. The car that caused the accident had also fled, leaving her all alone. She lay there, gasping for breath, with the scattered food lying around in the freezing winter. And then, when the sun had fully ascended, a new day began again. Early this morning, Yu-yong was urgently called out by the warden for an announcement. After hearing it, he felt a mix of confusion and a bad premonition. As a bad feeling loomed, he anxiously asked, "Huh? What's so pitiful?" he asked. The warden replied, "Yesterday, there was a fatal accident at the intersection in front of the prison gate." The warden stammered, meaning, Upon hearing this, Yu-yong felt as if his entire world was crumbling right before his eyes. He was utterly distraught and completely flustered. Just like that, Yu-yong sadly crumpled to his knees in the room. Witnessing his abnormal behavior, Ma-jeom was also somewhat puzzled. Meanwhile, Song-ho had absolutely no idea what was happening. As soon as he stepped into the bathroom, he bellowed, "Hey, Cha Yu-yong, you scumbag! Aren't you supposed to clean the bathroom today?" Song-ho quickly rushed over to Yu-yong, who was sitting there absent-mindedly, and glaring, he asked, "Hey, you think you're hot stuff now, huh?" Seeing him remain silent and ignore his words, he stared, completely bewildered. Seeing Yu-yong gazing at a picture of his beloved so early in the morning, Song-ho continued, "In broad daylight, staring at your girlfriend's picture and just sitting there dazed." "What?" Suddenly, one of the subordinates in the room said, "Hey, Song-ho, wasn't there a traffic accident in front of the camp today?" "It was that girl!" Song-ho was startled and replied, What? Is that true?" Not only did he not comfort or encourage him at all, he even laughed sarcastically and casually blurted out, "What? Visiting so diligently like that? And you're just friends? Why did you lie earlier?" Song-ho snatched the photo from his hand and burst out laughing mockingly. "How pitiful! Your girlfriend died, what will you do now?" He looked at the two people in the photo and started to exclaim, as if rubbing salt into the wound of Yu-yeon. "Oh, what a cutie! What a shame. She should have been mine, honestly." Suddenly, Sung-ho held up the photo and shouted loudly, "Who wants this photo? Starting price is 500 won. It's practically free." The subordinates clamored, "I'll pay 600 won. I'll pay 700 won. 1,000. "Oh, it's already 1,000. Chubby subordinate spoke up. "Hey, is there any chance I could date her?" The guy next to him burst out laughing. How can that crazy guy date a dead person? He cackled gleefully. If she were still alive, it wouldn't just be dating, you know. Song-ho licked his lips longingly. A genuine shame, really. He really should have stopped talking there. Another guy chimed in. "Does that lunatic want another trip to jail?" The chubby guy retorted, "What about my taste? Can't you just leave me alone, seriously?" As they continued their banter, they carelessly forgot all about Julian's feelings. At that moment, he was the only one who said nothing, merely focusing on observing everything around him. It seemed as though Megan had also sensed his discomfort. Suddenly, Julian recalled the conversation from last night. "You've always lived such a cowardly life, haven't you?" He only flinched and replied, "What did you say?" He stood watching as the others' mocking laughter still hadn't ceased. Ma-jeon heard their echoing laughter and chattering, thinking, "Oh, it's a limited edition performance now, is it?" Feeling annoyed, his gaze suddenly turned chilling. Song-ho, oblivious to the impending danger, kept laughing and talking. "Why don't I just take care of it for you?" But before he could finish his sentence, he was already met with a solid punch. A powerful punch. Turns out Ju-yeon had landed the finishing blow. It seemed as if all his pent-up emotions were poured into that punch. Afterward, he just silently looked down. Witnessing this act of defiance, they were so shocked, their mouths hung open. Furious, Ju-yeon relentlessly punched his face without a shred of mercy. His gaze at that moment turned incredibly cold and terrifying, while Ma-jeon stood still, watching Ju-yeon. He recalled why he had come here. Ju-yeon had told him earlier, recounting his past. "You know what? Everyone calls my dad the right-hand man of a notorious crime boss." Ju-yeon lowered his head and continued. "Since I was little, domestic violence had become a common occurrence. Every single day for me." After that, he resignedly recounted, his voice filled with helplessness. "But what could I do? He was still my dad, so I just had to endure and keep living." Ju-yeon opened his mouth and spoke softly. But then he continued, "Just once, I couldn't hold it back anymore." Listening to Ju-yeon recount his past, Ma-jeon was momentarily stunned. His whole body radiated a fierce aura. That was when he laid a hand on my friend. At the same time, Yu-young beat that scoundrel Song-ho black and blue. Yet he, still seething, tried to yell orders at his lackeys. "Kill him! As soon as he finished speaking, they all charged forward to attack. Meanwhile, on the other side, he observed the fight, recalling what he had once said. However, after growing up enduring countless near-death beatings, I learned one thing. Zueyan was attacking them, one by one. That's the way to fight. Blood kept splattering everywhere. Only Magyan remained standing outside, observing everything around without taking any action at all. By now, the entire room was covered in a sea of blood. All of them were lying unconscious on the ground. Wait, Zueyan. I was wrong. In the end, Song-ho finally gave up and begged for his life. I'll give you money. How much money do you need? How much will make you satisfied? But Zueyan just burst out laughing and replied, Money? Money is good, indeed. But now, next up was a relentless barrage of wild punches. I don't want it anymore. The photo of Chung, Yu, and Jian has also been stained with blood. The reason I got out of prison, Ju-young continued to punch him. He watched from the outside and listened to the sounds. The reason I endured it all, Song-ho was beaten black and blue, his face swollen and bruised. Yet, he still showed no sign of stopping. It has all vanished. Now, Ju-young recalled the old scene, remembering that man. He would follow in his father's footsteps and become a gangster. Just do that, and the daily abuse will endlessly repeat. Father said that to me. Once, he was beaten. Then it continued again, repeating. It didn't stop there. Those beatings kept repeating daily when I was little. When Ju-young was still a child, his father never stopped saying, Hit me back with all your strength. I couldn't look that person straight in the eye. He once praised that you've grown stronger. Until the day you get your tattoo, you will possess everything you desire, Ju-young. It was also the only place where I could vent my anger. At that time, his tattoo and his father were the two things he utterly despised. Meanwhile, he simply smiled gently and said, That's more like it. At that moment, Ju-young charged and attacked him many times. His gaze should be exactly like that. Those damn dragon eyes. His train of thought was suddenly cut off, bringing him back to reality. The prison guards, alerted by the noise, arrived one by one and yelled, What are you all doing? Then their eyes widened in utter astonishment. They couldn't believe the reality right before their eyes. Lying before their eyes were the prisoners, writhing and groaning in agonizing pain. And perhaps Ju-young was the culprit behind this insane deed. What the hell just happened? He muttered in horror. Cha, Ju-young. No way, you did this. But he, without a moment's hesitation, calmly replied, Yes. By now, Ju-young's face was covered in bloodstains. I just glanced at the prison guards and admitted I was the one who did it. And then, immediately after, in another prison cell, you were punished for your own reckless behavior. However, the pain in Ju-young's heart still hadn't subsided as he held the photo. Looking at it in pain, his eyes were distant as he thought about the past. Now, they are nothing but memories. He didn't know how much time had passed, yet Ju-young still sat motionless, holding the photo and staring intently. He still couldn't bring himself to believe it. Then, suddenly, beautiful memories came flooding back. Jason angrily asked, Are you crazy? Ju-young just replied quietly, while she, Jae-yeon, indignantly continued, What kind of parents would hit their child right before the first day of school? Looking at your bruised face, Jae-yeon exclaimed, That's truly outrageous. The two stood in front of the bustling schoolyard on the first day of school. She continued to scold him. He didn't even bother to come congratulate you. But Julian seemed all too used to it. So he just forced a smile and replied, It's fine. It'll heal in a day or two. Which only made Jason even angrier. Seriously? The more she talked, the more fired up she got. I need to talk to your dad. Upon hearing this, Ju-yeon frantically stopped her. Didn't you promise that you'd never come to my house? She lightly patted Jae-yeon's shoulder and said, If you don't keep your word, you'll have to call me Appa for the rest of your life. Got it? But she just looked away and cursed. Just one word. Then Jaeyeon sadly continued, Can a homeless person really live such a miserable life? Hearing that, Ju-yeon was flustered. That's not what I meant. After that, Jaeyeon even spoke loudly. Seoul will just leave you utterly clueless. To Ju-yeon's astonishment, she continued, Once I graduate high school, I'm moving to Seoul to live there. I've been reminiscing about my days living here. I'm so sick of life at the orphanage already, and this stifling neighborhood too. She continued, excitedly detailing her future plans. I'm going to Seoul. I'll graduate from a good university, then work at a big company. I'll drive a foreign car, carry designer bags, and live in an apartment with a view of the Han River. After hearing all this, Ju-yeon asked in surprise, Do you really like material things that much? Jaeyeon burst out laughing and asked in return, Don't you know? At that time he thought, I understand now, and muttered to himself, Oh no, if Rajian leaves, I'll be all alone. Thinking of being all alone and miserable. But she proposed, So you'll come with me, right? But before Ju-yeon could even say what, Rajian had already sealed the deal, hooking her pinky and saying, It's settled then, okay? The two of them hooked pinkies, promising each other. She then added, If you don't keep your word, you'll have to call me big sister for the rest of your life, got it? He let out a helpless laugh, exclaiming, What kind of punishment is that? For heaven's sake. But to onlookers, they looked like a couple. So someone suggested, "What a lovely couple. Let me take a picture of you two." Ju-yeon himself still tried to protest, "We're not a couple." But Rajan happily agreed. "Yes, please, go ahead and take them, sir. 1 or 2 shots to celebrate us entering high school." And from then on, they had a picture together like this. Back to reality. In the quiet hallway, truly booming sounds suddenly erupted, so much so that the door almost burst open. It turned out he was fiercely punching the wall, tormenting himself. "If only I hadn't had to go there." Ju-yeon hung his head low, so Ji-yeon didn't come. At this moment, he seemed to go mad, relentlessly punching the wall. Each continuous punch, a physical torment, grew heavier and more forceful. Ju-yeon punched until blood sprayed like rain and fell to the ground. "It's all my fault, John." But it seemed he still wouldn't stop. A blood-stained photo lay on the floor. Ju-yeon sobbed in guilt. "You shouldn't have had to leave like that." At the same time, the prison guard's voice called out, "Inmate 7199, Cha Ju-yeon." He spoke with an empathetic expression, saying, "I'm truly sorry you found yourself in this situation." The guard continued with concern. "But since yesterday, you haven't touched a single spoonful of rice." He called in from outside the door, "I can't just let this go on. First, calm down and eat something." The guard continued to offer words of comfort. "A person has to live, you know." But Ju-yeon didn't even bother to heed his words. At this moment, utterly devastated, he collapsed onto the ground. Tears ceaselessly streamed down. "I'm so sorry." Ju-yeon remained locked in his room, muttering to himself, "I'm sorry." The scene shifts to the juvenile detention center's cafeteria. Everyone is rushing to eat. Ma-gyeon is also here, eating. Coincidentally, he overheard the story from the gossiping group sitting nearby. "Did you hear the news?" "What news?" The other person happily recounted. "His name is Cha Ju, I-A-N-G, right? I heard he beat a fellow inmate, so he was sent to the punishment room." Someone else asked, "Why?" That person continued, "Because the section chief mocked his girlfriend, who just passed away from an accident, then called him insane." Hearing that, the group gasped in surprise. "Oh no!" The whole group suddenly burst out laughing, saying, "He totally deserved it." Suddenly, a figure also approached. It seemed that person had also heard their conversation. This made Ma-gyeon, sitting behind, look on curiously. While that group was still laughing mockingly, one said, "So, does that mean the section chief will be replaced?" That's when Yong-chan appeared. Without a single wasted movement, he forcefully slammed the face of the person who just spoke onto a food tray. Yong-chan roared furiously. "What were you punks saying behind my back?" He smirked slyly. "Sounds interesting." Then Yong-chan grinned wickedly and added, "Mind if I join the fun?" That's Park Jong-chan with a rather unique rap sheet. Then Yong-chan grabbed the guy by his hair, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. "What about the dude who punched the department head?" he probed. "Is that one also good?" he asked, tilting his head up. "But why, though?" Yong-chan's eyes narrowed dangerously as he offered a proposition. "Perhaps I should punch someone as well." At his veiled threat, the entire group went ghostly pale. Not a single soul dared to utter a peep. Instead, they all awkwardly chuckled and replied, "Oh no, definitely not. That's absolutely not the case." The sole exception was one poor fellow whose face Yong-chan had just shoved into a bowl of rice. He remained utterly speechless. Noticing this, Yong-chan leaned in close, whispering into the guy's ear, "You all right there, buddy?" The mushroom-haired fellow's face was thoroughly plastered with food and rice. He tried to compose himself, mumbling, "My apologies, Yong-chan. I really should learn to keep my big mouth shut." Upon hearing this, he looked over, a smirk of excitement on his face. Then Yong-chan casually slipped his hands into his pockets and continued to ask, "So his name is Cha Ju-yeon, isn't it?" The echoing voice made Ma-gyeon visibly uncomfortable, causing him to frown. A week later, Ju-young was finally back in his cell. The prison guard's voice announced, "Cha Ju-young, the department head you assaulted is still in the hospital." He then added, "Given the current situation, we'll release you in another week, so don't cause any more trouble." Hearing that, he silently bowed his head, not saying a word. When he heard a noise, he looked up. At this moment, Ju-young also slowly walked back to his seat. Despite such good news, his expression remained gloomy. Ma-gyeon just thought to himself silently, "He already defied the department head." He looked at those guys in the room, thinking he wouldn't let them off the hook. Then, as if on cue, one of the goons came over and called out, "You bastard!" The mushroom head stood up and yelled, "Cha Ju-young, you!" But surprisingly, he placed a hand on Ju-young's shoulder and greeted him. "How have you been? You must have had it rough." Suddenly, they all did a complete 180-degree turn in attitude and started fawning over him, which caught him off guard. They swarmed around Ju-young, asking questions. The detention room must have been hellish, huh? You can finally rest now. Each and every one of them asked all sorts of questions. "Let me massage you. Ju Young must be thirsty today. Someone get him some water. Witnessing this, Magium now had tons of juicy stuff to scribble into his diary. Recently, I've learned a lesson. Back in school, people cared about parental power, looks, grades, and all those other factors. But in juvie, power is absolutely everything. A moment later, at the Juvenile Detention Center's sports field, he was still leaning against the fence, diligently jotting down interesting observations. Always, everywhere. Suddenly, Juyeon spoke up. "Hey, Magium," he continued. "Why did you do that?" Hearing him, Magium, looking innocently confused, asked back, "Do what?" Juyeon bowed his head and said, "That day," he remembered that horrifying scene, saying, "When I tried to kill that room leader, you stopped me. You're the one who killed 7 people. That's why you're even in prison." Juyeon looked at his clenched fist, utterly baffled, and asked, "Why would you stop me?" At this, he just thought, "Why?" Then, suddenly, Magium's memories flooded back. Scenes of him wearing blood-soaked slippers, the chaotic panic in the classroom. Why did you do that? Why, of all places in that very room, did Magium kill his classmates? Covered in blood, he looked up and asked, "Why?" At this point, Magium merely gulped. After calming down, he opened his mouth to explain, saying it was because... However, before he could finish his sentence, a loud shout suddenly echoed. "You're Chayu wrong, huh?" Young-chan smirked and continued. Well, you look weaker than I thought you'd be." He leaned his face closer. Young-chan asked, "Someone like you managed to take down Kim Sung-ho?" "Ha! That guy was a total pushover anyway." Young-chan merely looked at him and grunted. After staring for a moment, he grew impatient and asked, "Why did you do that?" Observing his reaction, Young-chan barraged him. "You must really want to be the room leader, huh?" However, Yu-rong wasn't about to waste his breath on someone like him, and coldly whispered, "Get lost. I'm not interested." That concise answer made Young-chan froze slightly. He went from surprised to wearing a faint smile. Finally, Young-chan smirked and continued. "Chayu-rong," he continued. "You're really an arrogant bastard, huh?" Then Young-chan stomped his foot, launching himself up as he asked, "Do you know what I hate the most?" He punched Young-chan hard in the stomach, then continued, "It's you dog-like bastards who don't know your place." Young-chan shot him a warning glance. "Let me teach you a lesson in Kim Sung-ho's place." As soon as he finished speaking, a flurry of punches, none missing, landed on him. His eyes filled with murderous intent. He said, "What will happen to a dog that bites its owner?" While he was seeing red, a warning voice suddenly came from beyond the prison guard's fence. Ahem. Then he looked at both of them without saying anything more. Ju-young exclaimed, a bit sadly, "Damn it, we're caught!" But Young-chan immediately forced a laugh, saying, "Just kidding!" The prison guard, surprisingly, looked away as if nothing had happened. Seeing that, he became even more confident. "Do you know," he clarified for Young-chan, "as a section chief, you can hit however you want to maintain order. That's the rule of this juvenile detention center." He reached out provocatively, adding, "So you're allowed to hit." He talked so much, but Du-young still hasn't done anything, which irritates Young-chan. "Why don't you fight back? Like when you beat up your team leader." Then he frowned, looking at Du-young and yelling, "Hey, you murderer! What's wrong with this bastard?" Then, no one knew what had just happened. They only saw a blinding flash of light explode. Immediately after, he was thrown back. And Young-chan yelled, annoyed, "You're stumbling around like a dog that's been beaten." He cracked his knuckles, getting ready, and continued, "You doing that?" At the same time, Young-chan also rolled up his sleeve, revealing a tattoo on his arm. "Then fighting you won't even be fun." Du-young's eyes gradually became unfocused. Perhaps he wasn't paying attention to his surroundings because he had lost the will to live. Suddenly, the arm covered in tattoos lunged quickly towards Du-young. Seeing the dragon on it, he was reminded of his cruel, violent father. Then came memories of the horrific beatings he suffered from childhood to adulthood. This very dragon tattoo was something that Du-young despised greatly. Young-chan looked at him and continued, "From the way you're talking, it seems you don't know what fear is." Young-chan stood watching Yu-young, speculating. Could it be because he brought his face close, laughed loudly, and blurted out the painful details of your car accident? Not only did Young-chan punch, but he also kicked Yu-young directly in the face when that girl was hit by a truck. Yet when Jeon was mentioned, he immediately sprang up. He punched Young-chan hard in the mouth, making him spit out blood. Young-chan was quite surprised by Yu-young's fierce reaction. He didn't stop there. He also grabbed his arm and forcefully pushed Young-chan down to the ground. At this point, the tables had turned. He was pinned face first against the fence, yet he stubbornly spoke. "You bastard!" Yu-young said fiercely. "Say that again for me to hear." Young-chan replied in confusion. "What did you say, you dog?" Hearing that, he swung his leg and kicked his head hard, ordering, "Say it again for me to hear!" By this point, Young-chan was a bit scared. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Let me go! Damn it, if you let go, you're dead." However, Yu-young didn't care, still furiously kicking Young-chan's head. yelling, "Say it again!" He used both hands to tightly squeeze his arm, making Young Chan groan in extreme pain. The tattooed arm was getting squeezed tighter and tighter. It made him terrified, causing him to exclaim, "Wait, what are you doing?" In an instant, Du Yong had wrenched Young Chan's arm tight. Blood splattered continuously like rain. "Do it again!" Ma Guillaume stood outside, observing amidst his sky-piercing screams of agony. He growled, "Say it again!" At this moment, Du Yong seemed to go completely mad. He relentlessly kicked Young Chan's body over and over. In the end, he was beaten to a pulp, beyond recognition. Ever since I was little, the only place I could vent my anger was. Du Yong looked at him with a cold, menacing gaze. "Say that to me again. Only this place." Two women were whispering. "I heard that gang is mafia, right? This guy also looks like those bullies." Their eyes were fixed on him. "He'll bring a bad influence to this neighborhood." Du Yong's gaze fell as he suppressed his emotions. Staying calm is what I do best. He stood in front of a house, about to open the door and step inside. Suddenly he heard a scream from inside. He hurriedly opened the door, his face stunned. This voice, what in the world happened? Inside, Gang Rion was smashing things. Everything around was a mess. "You're just in time, son." On the ground lay a girl, her eyes gently closed. The man frowned. "Is she your friend, son?" His face panicked. He yelled. Bottles of liquor were scattered everywhere. He just barged into someone else's home. And then he dared to point fingers. He said, "If I dare to touch you again, it'd be best if this old man wasn't around." But he held himself back, recalling Zion's words. "I need to talk to your father." His father's eyes were cold. So I scolded him a bit. His eyes filled with resentment. He clenched his fists. I have to stay calm. That's what I'm best at, after all. The old man glanced at him, telling him, "If I hear that one more time, a flower will be split open, and water will flow out just like that day." His voice echoed in Juyeon's ears. "Then I'll send him to meet his parents." He turned and walked away. Just as Juyeon grabbed the ceramic vase in his hand, he lunged forward and smashed it onto his head. As dawn approached, Rajian was still lying on the floor, unconscious. Around him, sunbeams shone into the room. Juyeon's shoulders trembled slightly, his eyes burning with fury. The clothes he was wearing were soaked in blood. He couldn't calm himself down. Rajian was taken to the hospital, surrounded by tangled machines. He was in a vegetative state. The doctor looked at the hospital bed. Unfortunately, there's still a chance he could wake up. The doctor leaned into Juyeon's ear. "Unless a miracle happens." Juyeon stared intently at the hospital bed, his hands clenched, as if all the resentment he had endured had finally reached its peak. He approached the man, muttering to himself, "This is the end." Morning in the prison, the prisoners were gathering outside. What are they chattering about? Isn't that nutjob, Julian? He bowed his head, people's hushed whispers still echoing in his ears. Just got out of his cell, and he's already messed up again? At Yu Yong's feet lay a young man, his face completely drenched in blood. His arms were covered in gruesome tattoos. They were bent unnaturally backward. Yu Yong's eyes held an unsettling, cold-blooded intensity. All the prisoners were intently staring at him when suddenly a voice boomed out. "Exercise time is over. All prisoners, return to your cells immediately." Everyone dispersed to other areas inside the building. Someone was observing the yard below. "It seems a bit noisy down there, doesn't it?" The man picked up his teacup, perhaps pondering. This is where all the kids with excess energy gather, after all. He chuckled softly. "I'm glad you're in good health, sir. I heard you were just discharged from the hospital, correct?" Many subordinates were gathered around him. "If you feel any inconvenience, please do not hesitate to tell me. I will do my best to meet all your requests." He was Trang, CEO, the director of the Juvenile Detention Center. He furrowed his brow. "By the way, Trang, CEO. Sir, who are you here to see?" He chuckled softly, a smug look on his face. Inside the prison cell, the prisoners sat upright, facing each other. Their gazes were fixed on Ju Young. Beside him, a man was writing in a diary. "I guess I'll be sharing a room with an idiot." Outside the plaza, prisoner 7.199 Ju Young arrived here, his eyes filled with surprise and curiosity. Someone came to visit. Kwang Truong led him down a dark corridor, dark like his life. He pondered deeply, wondering, Who could be visiting me? He recalled his mother, who had run away when he was very young. His relatives had also cut ties. He gently lifted his head, wondering who was coming, as the guard opened the door. He was very surprised. The place he arrived at was actually the prison office. Why here? Inside was Ju Young's father, sitting on the sofa. It had been a long time since they last met. He frowned when he saw him, recalling the scene of him in a house reeking of alcohol. Gang Rion gave a sinister smile. "It's truly good to see you alive and well, my son." He recalled the moment the man lay on his bed, eyes filled with surprise and fear. No way. The man revealed a strange tattoo. The son held him back, stammering. How could you?" The prison director burst out laughing, slapping him on the shoulder. He, kid. Jang Seok leaned in and whispered, "You seem quite surprised, don't you? His Excellency miraculously woke up not long ago." Gang Ryeon watched him intently. Jang Seok smiled. "Quite fortunate, wouldn't you say? Since your father is still hale and hearty." He recalled the doctor's words. Unfortunately, he still had a chance to wake up. Yu Young's face froze, unable to believe the truth before his eyes. The doctor had said his father's chances of waking up were incredibly slim. But how could this be? The man curled his lips into a sneer. "Still don't believe it?" He furrowed his brows. "The one who made me." Gang Ryeon, the right hand of the mighty organization, looked up at the ceiling. "This situation isn't because of the police." He looked directly into Ju-yeon's eyes. "Instead, it's my own son. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was in the hospital." Tears streamed down his face like rain, and I felt incredibly sad. His words left Ju-yeon bewildered. "Gang Ryeon, all right. I'm so terribly sorry for you." The officer beside him offered a tissue for him to wipe his tears. "As a father, I truly wish to see you. I love my son." Ju-yeon heard these words. His head began to spin. He continued to lament. "This father couldn't do anything for you. Thus, I had no choice but to kill her." Ju-yeon's eyes trembled with fear at his callous words. He recalled that kid crossing the street. That night, Zion was holding a food box. A truck suddenly sped towards them. The car's headlights hit her, scattering everything. Kimbap lay scattered everywhere. Jae-hyun lay motionless on the road, amidst the pile of food. She tried to get up, her face contorted in pain. Gang Ryeon stood across the street, watching her. Jae-hyun pleaded weakly, "Please, save me, please." Ju-young's eyes widened in horror. Gae-young, he stood up, leaning on a crutch, and walked towards him. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Didn't you say it's best not to have a father like me?" He recalled the scene of Jae-hyun lying sprawled on the road. This is what parents should do for their children. He walked away, abandoning Jae-hyun, muttering to himself, "You probably wouldn't understand. After all, you don't even have parents." He frowned. "I thought you were a pitiful child, only capable of enduring quietly." He recalled the chaotic day when he first wanted to kill his father. "The first time you actually fought back." He burst out laughing. "That girl was the one who lit the fuse." His face turned ashen as he heard his words. "Gang Ryeon, that's why I tried to erase it. I sought away." His eyes filled with fury. "I'll kill her for your sake." Light streamed into the room. Jang Seok's jaw dropped in astonishment. "Wait, stop him." Ju-yeon swiftly spun around, ready to resist. But he never could have imagined. An electric current surged from behind him. Ju-yeon's body convulsed violently, his legs buckling beneath him. The officer aimed the taser gun, its two sharp needles zapping out bright electric arcs. Ju-yeon collapsed face first onto the cold, hard ground. Jang Seok watched him, letting out a breath of relief, yet still flinching. Yu-young's jaw was clenched tight, his eyes blazing with bitter hatred. Gang-yong stepped closer to him. "You want revenge by killing your own father, huh?" He revealed a bizarre tattoo emblazoned on his chest. He bellowed, "I'll tell you the only way to kill me." Their gazes all fixated on him. "Gang Ryeon, some of our members. In this juvenile detention center, the prisoners have strange tattoos. Gang Ryeon, currently, almost all of them have tattoos, but some of them might become pillars of the organization in the future." He smiled. "Show me that you are the best among all and control this entire juvenile detention center." The rays of the sunset shone into this detention center. "Gang Young, if you can climb high and gain recognition, then on that day, you can defeat me." Yu Young's eyes were filled with resentment. "Gang Young, and surpass me, who is only second in your organization." A dragon coiling next to the character Heaven is the organization's symbol. Gang Young, prepare to face the heavenly dragon. His eyes were sharp, and a faint smile played at the corners of his mouth. "You will achieve what I, your father, could not achieve in my entire life." He stared at Ju-yeon, who was lying on the ground. "If you can do that, my life will be complete because of you." He turned to look at Kang Seok. "Please take care of my son." Kang Seok, "Of course. Don't worry, sir." The officer then pulled out his taser and shot Jo-young again. Kang Seok yelled, "What's happening?" "Not again." Behind Jo-young. Jo-young resisted, retorting, "Don't talk nonsense." He turned around. Jo-young raised his fist. Today, his eyes burning with indignation, he launched a lightning-fast palm strike. "I will kill you. Gang Ryeon, the entire organization, even controls Tianlong. My entire life will be perfected because of you." Jo-young struggled to crawl and grab his leg. "Don't speak such useless words." His eyes were full of indignation. "Today will be the day you die." Behind him, he raised his fist. But before he could do anything, the man shoved his head down, saying, "Please forgive my impoliteness." He leaned into Jo-young's ear. "Young master." He raised his arm, Grabbing Jo Young's hair tightly, he pressed Jo Young's head down, smashing it straight into the ground. Two officers stood dumbfounded, their eyes wide with fear. He held Jo Young's body down tightly, a triumphant smile spreading across his face. "That's my duty, serving under you, boss." Jo Young refused to yield. He braced himself and stood up. Gang Young narrowed his eyes. What the hell? He'd used some strange force to bind Ju Yong, preventing any resistance. "Do you truly believe my power is only comparable to that of a mere Tianlong commander?" Gang Yong smirked. "You dared to resist with just your 2 feet? My foolish son, open your eyes wide and look around." Ju Yong's eyes blazed with bitter resentment as Gang Yong and his subordinates surrounded him. "Don't you understand? You can never hope to reach me." He looked at his son with utterly cold eyes. "Your reckless actions will only make everything chaotic." He merely glanced around. "The only way to kill me is to become the master of this entire prison." Ju Young's eyes burned fiercely with extreme hatred. Gang Yong smirked. "I'm eagerly looking forward to it. The moment we meet again, my dear son." Gang Yong and his subordinates departed as sunbeams pierced into the hallway. Ju Young, his body covered in wounds, struggled to stand up, his hand clenched, full of bitter resentment. In the carpentry workshop, prisoners around him were diligently working. While Guillaume was working on a chair, the guard approached. "You've met today's quota of 397. You can rest now." He understood. Over there, he had a scowling face and was muttering, "That scoundrel Gion's hammer skills are done already, huh? He didn't mess up his own brain too, did he?" That guy frowned. "But whatever you do, it won't matter anyway. He doesn't look like a murderer at all." The guy next to him thought he looked more like a loser. From a distance, a prisoner carried a box over. "I've brought this toolbox." "All right, good. Put it on the shelf." Upon hearing this, his eyes were curious. He couldn't understand what the heck they were staring at. On that guy's neck were many strange tattoos. Gion frowned as the toolbox fell to the ground. On the floor, screws scattered everywhere. Gion was furious. "Why did you knock over my neatly arranged toolbox, you punk?" "Gunman. Sorry, my hand's a bit messed up." A long, sharp screw lay on the floor. Guillaume's eyes lit up, seeing something truly marvelous. He smiled. "Is that yours, Guillaume?" Guillaume recalled a time from the past. "It's been a long time, hasn't it? Since we finished high school, right?" He frowned. "I saw you on the news. So we've met before, haven't we? Do you remember who I am?" Guillaume lowered his voice. "Oh, of course, gunman." He looked into Guillaume's eyes. Right, and I have something I want to talk to you about." He burst out laughing about that news story. "The incident where you killed 7 people. Guillaume's eyes narrowed at gunman. "So did you do it?" "I still can't believe it. Just imagining Guillaume from Teco High School pulling that off." Guillaume growled. "What do you want?" Gulman has nothing. "Anyway, you've been a model student at school since childhood, haven't you?" The warden approached, shouting, "Hey, stop talking and get back to work." He turned away and waved cheerfully. "All right, I'll see you next time, Gian." He looked at the tools on the table. He picked up the wooden plank with nails and deliberately hurt himself, his hands stained with blood. That night in prison, the atmosphere inside the prisoner's cell was truly quiet. Ju Young sat huddled in a corner, recalling Garyong's words. "The only way to kill me is to control this entire prison." His eyes blazed with fire, filled with burning resentment. "The only chance to kill that man, the man I call father." He observed everyone around him. Where should I start? Prisoner 7152 was clutching his stomach. "I'm so hungry I could die," he hissed. "Damn it, what kind of menu is all green?" He frowned. "Should I report this place for human rights violations?" "Are you dreaming? If only I could get my hands on a pizza. In that case, I'd die happy." "Hey, did you forget you're in prison? That's what a wish is, you idiot." Du Young slowly lifted his head. "A wish?" Someone sitting near the door whispered. "Psst, the guard is coming." Du Young stood up and walked towards the door. "Officer, what's the matter?" The guard frowned. "Du Young? Why did you call the guard?" "It's nothing important." The guard looked at Du Young. "Officer, do you happen to deliver pizza?" Everyone's surprised eyes turned toward him. The guard frowned. "Did you forget this is a prison? Get out now." He saw the pizza, and his eyes lit up. "This is absolutely amazing." They sat together, eating pizza. "How long has it been since I've had outside food, huh?" "Damn it, this is so good. I'm about to cry." "Thanks, Juyan." Juyan's eyes were full of thought. "I can't believe it, but it's true. The prison warden and the guard, all done under his father's influence." He thought, Kang Siak must be so relieved his father is still safe. Right, Gang Ryan? You don't have to worry about taking care of my son, Kang Siak. They're treating me like that person's son. It's very special. I need to investigate limits of what I can do within this prison. He turned his eyes towards Zuyan, or rather, Senior Zuyan. "Who are you really?" He frowned, hearing the flattery directed at him. Perhaps his father is a senator. Could he be a third-generation Shaebul? He clenched his fist. He gazed out the cell window. For revenge, he could do anything, regardless of the fact that he was his son. Juseo frowned. But why is Guillaume acting like that? Everyone else was eating pizza, only Guillaume sat silently in a corner. "Hey, Guillaume, why don't you come eat pizza?" "Let him be. He looks really strange today, so gloomy. Did something happen? Ji Yu-young kept his head down, his hands clenching his knees tightly. The next day, at the woodworking shop, they were still working normally. Yu-young heard a sound as Ji Yu-min approached. Tao's hand slipped again. The toolkit fell to the ground, and screws tumbled onto Guillaume. Ji Yu-min's tone was sarcastic. His face was serene. Sorry. Tao's hand was a bit slippery. Guillaume's face was furious. He ground his teeth. What is this Ji Yu-min trying to pull? Ji Yu-min glanced at him. Guillaume turned around and stood facing him. What's this, Ji Yu-min? This is different from what you said. Their eyes are wide, practically glaring at you. He frowned. A top assassin? A subordinate of Tao? What a turn of events. So, the fact that this guy is a notorious bully in the area? Is that a lie too? Ji Yu-min remained sullenly silent, then chuckled. What else could it be but a lie? Arjuwam, back when he was a kid? I truly miss those good memories from that time. His eyes, heavy with emotion, fell upon Ji Yu-min. You haven't forgotten how much fun you had playing with us, have you? He suddenly felt something strike the back of his neck. He violently struck the back of his neck with a pipe. Does this make you remember that time? His eyes widened, and his body trembled. Ji Yu-min, why are you trembling like that? He panted. Please, Ji Yu-min, stop. Tears streamed from the corners of his eyes. His gaze pleading, please. They dragged him to a pitch-black room. His eyes shone brightly as he smirked. What did you say? It's hard to hear clearly out here. Outside was a door covered in nails, and Ji Yu-min was panting in fear. I said, please, let me out. He gave a grotesque smile. Oh, no. He tightly clutched a nail in his hand. That won't do. The fun is just beginning now. He held a hammer in his hand. The countdown began. Ji Yu-min. 1, 2, 3, 4! In that room, his legs buckled from fear. He pushed Ji Yu-min's face down onto the sharp nail. So, do you remember now? They wore smug expressions. Look, he's shaking. He's scared now. Goldman is holding a sharp nail in his hand. Can you believe this? That scumbag is trying to kill someone again, isn't he? He's pressing his face against a spot with many sharp nails. Guillaume gripped his wrist tightly, sending the nails scattering. They were surprised to see Guillaume push him away. Do you want to see? Yu-young watched intently. Guillaume grabbed his collar. His eyes as cold as ice. How I kill someone. The double ceiling lights flickered on. Gunbim was stunned by his resistance right now. So do you want me to teach you? Guillaume grabbed his wrist. I'll teach you how to kill someone. The two struggled, trying to restrain each other until their arms trembled. Suddenly, the guard spoke up. Hey, over there! Break time's over. Get back to your places. Are you listening? Seizing the moment, Gunbim yanked his arm free. Don't touch me! His buddies turned away, chuckling mischievously. Looks like they're enjoying this. Gunbim clicked his tongue and left with his crew, but still glanced back, observing his demeanor. Seeing Magyam still working as usual, he secretly cursed the idiot. They returned to their room to play games. Gumim spoke up, asking about Jesus and Buddha. He posed a question. Who do you think will win? The guy sitting next to him answered first. Of course it's Jesus. But Spiky argued back. Hey, what the hell do you know? Buddha is clearly the victor, he retorted. No way! Does Jesus give you choco pies? Spiky shot back. So does Buddha give you burgers? This single issue was enough to make them argue ferociously. This is a holy war, the chubby guy, number 2738, declared, waving his hand. Come on, let's engage in some religious activities. Switching to cell number 65. There was no one in the room. Juyun and the boy each retreated to a corner. The boy remained silent, staring vaguely, lost in thought. After a long while, Juyun broke the silence. Thank you, Magium. I don't understand why. He recalled all the people he had brutalized. If you hadn't stopped me, I might have been stuck here for another decade. Just then, he finally tilted his head and voiced the question on his mind. Back then, when you asked why I stopped you, why did you ask that? Yu Young honestly revealed, I have a reason to leave this place. He hesitated, saying, the person who killed my friend. Therefore, I must go and meet him. Magion felt doubtful, but Yu Young stated his father was in a vegetative state. He only vaguely replied, it's a long story. Nevertheless, Yu Young believed he needed to voice his thoughts. But I do have to thank you, for I was able to leave this place quickly. Thanks a lot, he frowned, studying Yu Young thoughtfully for a moment. Then Magion spoke up. Are you mocking me? How on earth can you say that to someone sentenced to 25 years in prison? Oh, Yu Young realized he had misspoken and quickly corrected himself. Oh, I didn't mean that. At the same time, he also wanted to show his sincerity. However, I will repay you. Outside, light shone through the high window, illuminating the room. He thought for a moment, then expressed, I understand. The scene shifts to the woodworking shop where prisoners worked. The iron door was tightly shut. The guard dropped it in front of Magyam. All right, he said, this is the key. He said, hands on his hips, commanding him. Sorry, Magyam, but I suddenly have something to do at home. The guard hurried to the door, giving instructions as he went. So please, clean up the room for me, will you? Good luck, Magium, Magium obediently replied. Yes, I understand. He was left alone, looking at the table cluttered with tools. Magium frowned when he saw a strange creature. That was the thing lying still on the table. A moth. It made him immediately think of Gumim. Magium's expression became extremely disturbed. In the past, once, he had shown Gumim a butterfly. What do you think of this? Gumim asked, very surprised. You did all of this? That's truly amazing. At that time, he was 11-year-old Yun Gumin. That's your friend Majuom, I remember him asserting. I don't really like insects because they look a bit creepy. Moths and butterflies, too. Yun Gumin used to be like that, but he just chuckled gleefully, showing off more specimen boxes. Gumin, do you want to see more? Became wary, what? Towards Majuom? Gumin used to be my first friend. Once, when we were in school, the boys in class gathered to gossip. What's his name? Yun Gumin? Doesn't he look a bit off? He also heard them criticize him. And he collects insects. That's disgusting. An overzealous brown-haired boy even walked closer, provoking him. Hey, are you planning to collect them to eat later? Gumin was flustered, wanting to explain. But what? It's not like that. He ignored him as if he didn't hear. Right? You're going to use them to supplement your vitamins, aren't you? Another gray-haired boy came to attack him. You're going to eat them, aren't you? Oh, hey. That's when he appeared, stopping them right on the spot. I know it's free time right now, but you guys should head back to your spots. The brown-haired student whispered, Hey, the class monitor's coming. He cast a wary glance. Is he planning to give us more penalty points or something, huh? So they all decided to scram. Sorry, class monitor. We were just kidding around. Once he got rid of the others, he then asked Ji-Yu Min, Are you okay? Ji-Yu Min awkwardly waved his hand. Yeah, thanks. Jayo saw Ji-Yu Min's face suddenly brighten up. Oh, right. Do you remember you said you'd come over to my place to hang out? Suddenly, those friends came back. We've got a new game, class monitor. When did things suddenly change, huh? Another day, the brown-haired student coaxed him. Should we play a soccer match against class 4 inches after school? But he skillfully declined. I already have plans today. The spiky-haired student immediately insisted. Hey, class monitor, we can't possibly do it without you. So Magion had no choice but to accept. All right, they excitedly cheered. Great. Looks like we're not so distant after all. I don't know either. Magium once turned his head to look at his friend. Gumim had also once silently watched the one who used to defend him. However, both of them were gradually drifting apart. Until the next year, we were in different classes again. He stopped by to check after school. That was Gumim's spot. He's already gone home? We played with each other less than before. Once, Magiom overheard a student with a 2-block haircut gossiping. Have you heard anything about Yun Gunmim? He told me he was the target of the bullies, and the person opposite him looked surprised. It's true, the 2-block haircut student insisted. I saw him get beaten up last time. While they were talking, someone ran over with news. Oh no, everyone! Yoon Jun Min was just taken to the storage room. He immediately ran off to find his friend. Magium's long-suppressed anxiety became clearly visible. After a while, he arrived, breathing heavily from exhaustion. Magium pushed open the warehouse door, not yet lifting his head. It wasn't until he looked up and called out to Gun Mim. Gun Mim, the guy not wearing a vest, glanced sideways. Oh, is that the loser? The guy with slick-back hair tilted his head, intrigued. Probably. Should we check again? Just then, Magiom suddenly heard a familiar voice. Ah, it's you! Right then, Gunmim suddenly appeared from behind him. I'm right behind you. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly pushed Magiom into a small cabinet. He was astonished, unable to believe his friend would do something like that. Gunmim! He tried to push the door open. You! What are you doing? He grumbled, putting all his strength into his hands. Damn it, get in! Gunmim pushed with all his might. Get in, hurry! After the door was closed, he quickly inserted the key and locked the bolt. The guy with slicked-back hair smirked mockingly. Well, the insect collector actually succeeded, huh? The other guy walking beside him chimed in. I told you he was an idiot. Before that, he had made a deal with Gunmim. If you want to join Tao's gang, you have to offer up your favorite insect, and you have to, dispose of it. That's why Magium had to bang on the door, yelling, Let Tao out! Gunman, what in the world happened to you? He pressed his face against the cabinet. Wait a sec. Magium's in there. He overheard them talking. If we catch an insect... Now, Gunman walked over, carrying the hammer. We have to peel it immediately. The flashback ends here. Returning to the present, he suddenly walked out and slammed his hand down on the moth. But everyone only liked butterflies and thought moths were disgusting. Then Gunman squeezed it tightly in his hand. Just like Tao right now, he said, crushing the moth into tiny pieces. All of this, and then Gunman had to scatter its remains into the air. It's all your fault. Magium suddenly looked flustered, staring at Gumim. What the hell are you talking about? Why is it my fault? He didn't believe it. Don't pretend to be naive! His expression grew grim as Gunbim revealed his innermost thoughts. Did you really think I didn't know you were just pretending to be kind? playing the role of a friend, all while you slowly alienated me, only to betray me later, huh? It turns out when Magium befriended others, Gunbim assumed I knew what you were truly thinking. I was just a disgusting moth, while you were a beloved butterfly, weren't you? His face contorted on the day I realized that. I felt every passing day was pure torment. Gunbim touched a sharp piece of the moth, still stuck to his hand. Do you understand? You're the one who turned me into this. He bit his lip tightly, never expecting Gunbim had thought that. I was the only one completely broken back then. Gunbim clenched his fist tightly. The moment I heard the news that you had killed 7 lives, he flashed a dangerous smirk. I was practically losing my mind. But then Gu Minmim mocked such retribution. Ma Jiam trembled with rage. His fingers clenched so tightly into his palm, drawing blood. So that's what you mean, isn't it? A look of shock flashed across his face when Ma Jiom exclaimed, "Because of you, I came here." He suddenly choked up, unable to continue. Seeing that, Gu Minmim became even more smug. It doesn't matter. Your life is already in shambles anyway. Suddenly, his cronies grabbed Ma Jiom and gagged him. And now, you'll be crushed to dust. The thick-lipped guy seemed to be praising Gu Minmim. From the moment you tried to bribe Manager Mesu, I knew you weren't ordinary. You're truly incredible. Gu Minmim's eyes gleamed with excitement. It's not over yet. Hearing this, he furrowed his brow, sensing something unsettling. After we collect the insects, the cabinet was brought out, in front of Ma Jiom. We'll have to peel them off. He recoiled, his panic clearly showing. Ma Jiom struggled desperately to escape those people. Wait! But Gumim didn't care, all because of you. He was still shoved into the closet, even with his hands gripping the door tightly. He had locked it all with a padlock, and even secured it tightly with ropes. This is all because of you, Magium. He indignantly pressed his hands against the closet wall. Why are you doing this to me? Just as he spoke, Magium suddenly noticed strange objects in the closet. That's my gift for you. Disgusting insects were crawling all over him, vying for space. Magium bit his lip, listening to Gumim's utterly detestable voice from outside. They're your little bug buddies. Inside the closet, it was silent, as if nothing was happening. He smirked. How do you like it? Gumim, you like bugs, don't you? Yet. There was no sound in response. Gumim pressed his ear against the closet. Why aren't you answering me? Aren't you scared, then? He bit his lip, enduring with a furrowed brow. You're staying quiet, aren't you? The long-haired guy exclaimed. Wow, look at how he's enduring this. The white-haired guy also felt a thrill. He's quite tough, isn't he? The leader crossed his arms and questioned Yoon Ji-Umin. Are you going to apologize to him? He's a murderer, you know, he muttered. A murderer. Nevertheless, Gunman continued to smirk. So what if he is? He lowered his gaze. Ha! You look utterly pathetic, you scumbag. Gunman put his hands on his hips, giving the leader a glare. It hasn't even started yet. From now on, hatred surged in his heart. I'll make him scream until his vocal cords tear. Suddenly, Juyon appeared, interrupting the fight. He put his hands in his pockets and asked, What exactly are you trying to do? Leader aggressively lunged forward. Oh, you're so scary. Dog crap, the ponytail guy wondered. Why is Asterisk this guy here? Jujon opened his mouth. How are you going to make him scream? Then, he swiftly twisted the white-haired guy's arm. Like this! The guy went ballistic, raising his fist. What the hell do you think you're doing, you damn dog? Immediately, the white-haired guy's cheek made intimate contact with the sole of Juyan Shu. He used full force to kick him, sending him flying into that cabinet. Is that how it's gonna be? He swallowed his annoyance, glaring at Juyon through the gap in the cabinet door. He heard his name being called. Magyam! He glanced through the small gap to figure out the situation. I'll pay back what I owe. He twisted this guy's arm, staring intently at Gulman. At this moment, the others in the room were all buzzing with chatter. Where is he? The whole group sat properly in the room, gossiping with each other. One person spoke up. Now that you mention it, I don't see Magyam either. Another person immediately replied. The guard called him to the woodshop already. Juyan sat alone in the corner, listening to the discussion. Suddenly he was called to clean up this late at night. As if struck by a bad premonition, he quickly sprang to his feet, much to the astonishment of the others. Afterward, Yu Yong approached the door. Just as a prison guard walked by, he quickly called out to the instructor. The instructor turned around and responded with a sound. Guard pushed up his cap and asked, What's the matter? It's you again? He remembered the previous pizza incident, when the whole group collectively asked, Is he calling for pizza again? Oh, let's have chicken this time. Ju Young simply and calmly stated, Open the door. Upon hearing that, the people behind him were utterly shocked and exclaimed, What? Even the guard was just as surprised. He scoffed and asked again, What? What did you just say? Returning to the present, he peeked through the gap and whispered, Hey, Majan, to pay off a debt. Ju Young cracked his knuckles, looking at Mejian, and continued, Let's call it a draw this time, okay, pal? The atmosphere in the room grew increasingly tense and dramatic. He still stood defiantly in the middle of the room, looking at the people sprawled on the ground. Suddenly, someone spoke up first and asked, "Are you Cha Ju-yang?" He sneered and continued, "That guy who's been causing a ruckus lately, and not far away." Gumbim also seemed scared and let out a long A moment later, he calmed himself down and continued to speak calmly. "Earlier, when I was with Magyam, I wasn't sure, but now I get it." He curiously asked, "Are you two really that close?" Gumam reached out his hand, glanced at him, then exclaimed, "Wow, that's something. Magyam has a trustworthy friend." He continued, "I wish I had a friend like that too." But that ringleader guy just scoffed with an annoying laugh. "That's irritating to hear." He looked at Ju Young opposite him and sneered, "Oh, Ju Young, you're really loyal, aren't you? I like you now." After that, he quickly jumped high, swung his fist towards him and asked, "Do you want to be my friend right now?" Ju Young was no pushover either. He also stomped his foot hard on the ground and leaped high. It's unclear what happened next, but all that was seen was him groaning in confusion. In a flash, it turned out he had quickly grabbed his neck and slammed him hard to the ground. He spun once in midair, then fell hard. At this moment, Ju Young just scoffed and retorted, "You and I friends?" He looked at him, lying motionless on the floor, then continued, "I'd rather die." Ju Young finished dealing with this ringleader, then turned his back away and spoke up, asking, "Why did you do that?" His eyes turned cold, staring at the person opposite him, criticizing, "That's going too far." But Ji Min merely scoffed, repeating such an outrageous claim. Then he immediately sneered, "Are you kidding me?" At that moment, only Ji Min's voice echoed through the room. "Because of that traitor, I had to live in agony, you know." He raised both hands, recounting everything with a resentful tone. "He pretended to be my only childhood friend. He pretended to care, but behind my back, he was plotting." But Ji Yumin's eyes became terrifyingly dangerous. He dragged me down like a snake, trying to kill me. Then he looked towards the kind Ju Yon and warned him, "So you should also be careful when you're with him, especially then." While he was engrossed in listening to Ji Yumin's story, that mastermind had woken up and was approaching right behind Ju Yan. Instantly, he gripped Ju Yan's head tightly, shouting in fury, "You thought I'd let that slide easily, huh?" His hand tightened more and more around Ju Yan's neck. He also growled menacingly. Everything was just paving the way for this very moment. But at this moment, Ju Yan was suffocating, his face turning crimson and contorted in a grimace, struggling and calling for Ji Min on the other side. Upon seeing this scene, he excitedly cheered, "Oh, that's more like it. Snap his neck." The ringleader tightened his grip and said, "So now, do you want to be friends with me?" Du Young gritted his teeth in agony, drenched in sweat. He mused, "His grip strength is no joke. I don't want to escape this way, yet." Du Young immediately twisted his attacker's finger with all his might. This made the attacker groan in pain, and Du Young thought, "You won't be able to use this finger anymore." But to his surprise, right at that moment, Gunbim had already plunged a knife into his stomach. His eyes were bloodshot, brimming with murderous intent. Gunbim laughed maniacally. "I have to do something too, don't I?" Seeing this, the other guy happily praised, "Ian Gunbim, you bastard. You truly are a good friend." Du Young not only endured the pain of the knife wound, but also his suffocating grip. His face slowly turned purple as he thought, "I can't breathe." Suddenly, someone's voice broke the tense atmosphere. Magyam brought out a chain and wrapped it around the ringleader's neck. "You'll break his neck." Seeing this, Gumim was startled and bewildered, thinking, "Magyam." He frowned, gritting his teeth, and looked towards the cabinet, thinking to himself, "When did he get out?" Then Gumam remembered when Ju Yon kicked the ringleader earlier. He had accidentally fallen, crashing into the cabinet door. "Ah, so that's how the lock broke. Thanks to his help, you quickly seized the opportunity. You kicked him hard in the face, causing his nose to bleed profusely." Ju Yong looked at him lying on the floor and exclaimed with satisfaction. Having dealt with one guy, he glanced around and exclaimed, "That was really dangerous just now." Ju Young turned his head to look at Magyom and that ringleader. Assessing the situation, he only saw the ringleader screaming, wrapped in the chain. "It hurts so much?" He was trembling from the pain, going absolutely crazy. Immediately after that, he tried to use all his remaining strength. He vigorously pulled his body forward. Damn it! He had no choice but to stumble along behind. Seeing this scene, Gumim brightened up, full of hope, and cheered. "Awesome! That's more like it. Just keep pulling!" But Magyom just gritted his teeth and said, "I told you so!" He was drawing closer, step by step. "Don't you dare resist, not with Ju Yong completely stunned." Magyam roared, "Your neck will snap!" As soon as he finished speaking, he slammed his foot into the man's head. Meanwhile, his hands pulled the rope backward with all their might. After a moment of struggle, finally his eyes rolled back, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Magyam's grip was so strong that fresh blood streamed down the chain. Then the blood flowed onto his hands. At this moment, Magyam furiously shouted, Let go if you don't want to die. And finally, his body gradually weakened until he lost consciousness. Realizing this wasn't going well, he immediately released the chain, causing his entire body to lose support and tumble. He crashed to the ground. It seemed Ma Guillaume was utterly exhausted, standing there and panting. Ju-young clutched the wound on his abdomen, then slowly walked closer to where the ringleader lay. On the other side, Ma Guillaume also cast a cold gaze, staring intently at Ji Lim. Then, he took a step closer to him, causing Ji Lim to retreat in a panic and stammer out, "Wait!" He frantically widened his eyes and screamed in despair. "I'm the victim here. It's your fault this happened." Gummin still stubbornly yelled, "I was just defending myself. I didn't do anything wrong, damn it." Magian, however, couldn't care less. He shot a death glare in Gummin's direction. Seeing that look, Gummin suddenly got so scared he fell backward onto the ground. He finally knew fear. Gummin immediately knelt down, begging non-stop, "I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Forgive me, Magian." He hugged Magian's leg and continued, "It was just my momentary foolishness." Gummin looked up, pleading with an utterly pathetic expression. "You know me. I'm a complete failure. Please, just consider this a fool's mistake, and forgive me just this once." However, in response to his plea, there was only one word, a curt "No." Magian coldly looked down at him, and replied with utter indifference, "I never once thought of you like that." Hearing this, a ray of hope suddenly flickered in Gummin's heart. He exclaimed in surprise, "Huh!" Yet his voice rang out again. "Yoon Hun-min, your selfish delusion has ruined my life. That's an unchangeable truth." Ma Guillaume looked at him kneeling at his feet and explained, "I've already killed 7 people, so I've also been thinking about how to deal with you." Those words were like a bowl of cold water splashed directly onto Gulam's face, leaving him stunned. He was completely frozen, unable to say anything more. Right after that, he turned his face away and spoke. "But then again, now, I don't hate you that much anymore, because we used to be friends." At these words, Gulam was stunned for a long time, unable to respond. Suddenly, old memories in his heart flooded back all at once. He remembered those not-so-happy memories from before, friend. Suddenly, Gulam's expression changed. It became filled with killing intent. He burst out laughing, thinking to himself, "How ridiculous! That gullible fool! Soon enough, I'll definitely—" But before he could finish his thought, at that moment, a foot came up, accompanied by the words, "That broke my heart, you know." Immediately after, because he wasn't prepared, Gulam took the blow, then rolled a few times on the ground. He lay motionless. Juyan, clutching the wound on his abdomen with one hand, approached and said disdainfully, "Let's just call it a draw this time, okay?" Upon hearing this, Magiam's eyes suddenly welled up with a myriad of sorrows as he called out, "Cha, Juyan!" What's more, he even placed a hand on his shoulder to comfort him. Suddenly, the two of them plopped down onto the ground to rest. Juyan spoke up, causing Magiam to look puzzled. He continued, "Are you an idiot?" Upon hearing this, he looked even more bewildered as he replied, "Why would you suddenly say something like that?" Juyan turned his face away, offering his analysis. "A murderer who killed 7 people is actually scared of that weakling." However, Magiam immediately spoke up, "I'm not afraid of him." After that, the two sat in silence for a long moment. Then, Juyon smiled and responded, "I know." This made Magiam look slightly surprised. He then turned back to him, continuing, "I don't understand what kind of deep-seated hatred you two might have shared, if any, but at the very least, I see that both of you," Juyan's added words were, "aren't enemies, are you?" This left him slightly stunned, unsure how to formulate an understandable response. After thinking for a while, Magiam only replied with a short, concise sentence. "What do you know anyway?" Zueyang, holding his wound, frowned unhappily and said, "Why haven't you left yet?" Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise. When he heard him call his name, Zueyong Majim seemed not to notice Zueyong's distress and happily smiled, saying, "Thanks." He just smiled nonchalantly in response. "Why are you suddenly saying thanks?" Suddenly, Zhuyon's eyes widened in surprise when he heard a sound. From behind, some unknown man appeared. He sat down next to Gunman and yelled, "Gunman!" He turned to look, wondering who that guy was. He looked quite fierce, staring at him, and spoke in a low voice. "How dare you leave without my permission? Don't you know how scared I was?" Meanwhile, Gunman was still in a dazed state, not yet conscious. Suddenly, he punched Gunman hard in the face and shouted loudly. He continued to speak loudly, "And no one caught you. I almost died of fear." Then, he just kept hitting him relentlessly. Witnessing the scene of blood splattering everywhere, he shuddered. At this horrifying sight, Majiam and Juyon were also so shocked they froze. At this moment, Kang Zion was beaten black and blue, almost to death, and back again. After that, he brought his hand up to his face, stroking it, and looked, exclaiming, "Blood splattered all over my face." At this moment, his eyes were bloodshot and terrifying. He kept bringing his hand up to wipe away the bloodstains on his face, all while shouting, "I hate dirty things. They're just full of bacteria." But suddenly, he grabbed Juyon's collar, making Ju-yeon's eyes widen in surprise as he watched. It turned out he wanted to use Ju-yeon's shirt to wipe the bloodstains from his own face. After that, he said, "Well?" This made Ju-yeon still not understand what was happening. At this moment, he tilted his face, covered in bloodstains, up, looking at Ju-yeon and asking, "Is it clean yet?" Kang Zion asked, tugging on Ju-yeon's shirt. With an urgent look in his eyes, he demanded, "Tell me, is it clean yet?" At first, Ju-yeon still didn't understand what was happening. He observed his expression for a moment, thinking, "Is it clean yet, huh?" Kang Zion's face was still stained. His eyes showed full bewilderment when Ju-yeon replied, "No, it's still very dirty." Magium frowned apprehensively, as he had started to get angry. "What did you just say?" Kang Zion seemed utterly miserable. Even the sound that came out was trembling. And then he suddenly raised his hand, aiming a filthy slap at Zion. Just then, the guard appeared and shouted, "If you finished your share of the work, then quickly return to your cell." He lowered his head while the guard was yelling loudly, "What are you guys gathering here for, huh?" Zion's identification number on his uniform is 7,199. 7,199. Kang Zion kept muttering that number as if hypnotized. 7,199. 7,199. 7,199. 7,199. He pressed his face close to the name tag on Zion's uniform. 7,199. The scene shifts to the next morning. The inmates were allowed out to the yard for exercise. He felt a bit uneasy. What's going on, everyone? Because now everyone in the cell had gathered around and sat with Zion. Why is everyone swarming around me like this? Nothing's going on, is it? Amen, standing nearby, burst out laughing. "You're asking why, huh? So you're saying the reason is Ju-yeon? You, Gunnamin, are the inmate from cell number 36. On the yard, everyone else started buzzing with talk. "Isn't that him? The guy who showed off at the training yard the other day. I heard that guy got beaten up. Still, rumors say this guy is very strong." Gunnamin put his hands in his pockets, teasing Ju-yeon. "If you stay close to me, then no one would dare to hit me. Right?" Magium had the same question, but why me as well? Ju-yeon let out a sigh. "Just do as you please." His eyes still looked fixedly straight ahead. "Just don't bother me, that's all. I have something I need to do. You want to find someone who has a tattoo on their body? A